Hello, Elaine.
Yes,
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I turned down the volume on my TV set.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much. So you're coming through loud and clear, which is fantastic. So I have joining me this morning Michael Maloney. He's one of my cousins.
Hi, Michael.
How are you doing? Great to hear from you. Thank you for making the time for us.
Oh, I think this is going to be fun. I've been going down memory lane here.
Well, we're excited to join you on that journey.
Okay.
So before we start and listening to your stories, let me just give you a background. I married Tassos's great niece. My wife Erin was on Facebook last weekend, and she noticed that a website said that the Goldust Lounge was going to be evicted. So we were like, oh my God, what's going on? And Michael then rushed off and created a Facebook page to garner support for this, to say we've got to save the Goldust Lounge. And then over the last week, we've generated a large amount of interest. The New York Times yesterday published the article. We've been on local television, local radio. There's going to be a press conference next week with Willie Brown, who's one of the ex-mayors of the city. Christopher Kane, who Herb Kane's son, hopefully is also going to be there. So we're getting a lot of great attention, and my gut feeling is that this is going to be successful. I mean, nobody really knows how these things play out, but we're very, very hopeful that we're going to be able to save the lounge and keep it as a going concern. And as part of this, there is a long history behind this bar, that closing this bar, you're going to be cutting off a history in the city that shouldn't be lost.
Right.
You know, that history needs to continue. There is still a live band that plays every single night. It's still one of the cheapest places to get a drink in the city. You know, so it's still holding true to its traditions. It's still got Bing Crosby's artwork on the ceiling of the naked cherubs. So you know, there's a lot to cling on to here. So your daughter emailed your details, and looking at it, it's fantastic the history that you've got, that you used to sing there, and that's why I want to talk to you this morning. So I think the first thing we'd like to know is introduce yourself. Tell us how you got to the Goldust Bar.
Okay, well, I went and looked up something and made sure that actually I started there in January of '78. I know that I got the job there from a place called Joe Nebriga's. I was playing the piano at Joe Nebriga's, and this piano player named Barbara, who was playing at the Goldust, so this was in '78. She came into Joe Nebriga's, and they wanted somebody to play on the nights she was not playing.
Oh, I see. Right.
I think she was there about 4 nights a week.
Right.
And so she came in and she saw me at this place called Joe Nebriga's, and she offered me the job. They told her to go out and find another piano player for the rest of the week. So I went over and I met the Bovises, right?
You met Jimmy and Tassos then at the bar.
I did. Met Jimmy and Tassos, came in, but this Barbara recommended me to them because she came and saw me at this other place. Okay. So I don't know if I did an audition as much as they just said, well, you know, can you start this weekend?
Wow.
So I think I did 2 or 3 nights a week, and she did the rest. She had been there by herself, I think.
Right. So do you think the Dixieland trios were prior to you, do you think?
Prior and after.
Oh, I see.
They started out with Dixieland. In the old days, they had a pole in there, right? And girls would slide down the pole. That goes way back.
Wow.
Well, Pop, you didn't hear that?
No, I didn't know there was pole girls.
Oh, you got to check that out. Now,
They need to bring those back.
This is where it was decorated like an old Barbary Coast saloon, right? With the wallpaper, and I don't know when the ceiling came into play, but it had like saloon doors when you come in. And the story was that there was a pole in the back corner by the bar, and that I think scantily dressed women slid down the pole.
Right.
And they had at least a banjo player or something like that. So I think Chuck Davis, the bartender, knows that story.
We'll have to inquire with him again.
Oh, you
about that.
gotta look into that one. And that's okay. Well, when did the place first open? How far back does it go?
Well,
Opened in 33.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, it was way back. I mean, I'm guessing 30s and 40s on that one.
Yeah.
But check that out. Yeah, very fabulous history. So anyway, then they had the Dixieland. They took the pole away at some point. And all I know, I'm going to back up 10 years from my 78 and go to 68, is possibly when they started just having a single piano player. I'm guessing at that, because I think there were 3 of us over 10 years during that period, I think.
So when you performed, it was just you on the piano?
Just me, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I say, and there were 2 other people before me that did the same thing. We were solo. No Dixieland, no band, just us.
And where was the piano? Was that opposite the bar in the far right-hand corner?
Opposite the bar yes, exactly.
Gotcha. So it's actually the same place where they have live music today then?
I think, yes, absolutely. And let me think of what else went on back there. Actually, I added, the other pianists before me, people came in and sang with them.
Oh, right.
You know, and people have said this many, many times. That was the original karaoke setup. and it was a live piano player instead of a recorded music.
Right.
There was no karaoke, okay? So they would come in. They may or may not have known the key that they sang their song in. They usually didn't. We would say, "Well, start singing. We'll figure it out. We'll find you."
Right.
No kidding. And some of them were very good. Some of them were not so good.
Yeah.
But it really was before karaoke and the same idea. And they would come in and sing, and they brought their friends to come in and listen to them. And that's what, and then I did sing-alongs with everybody. At one point, I even brought song sheets in with the words on them.
Oh, what, and passed them out around the bar?
Yeah, I did. And we did, they loved Broadway music, you know. We had songs from musicals like Oklahoma, Oh, What a Beautiful Morning and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And then all the old sing-alongs. When we had an older crowd, it depended on the age of the crowd, what kind of sing-alongs we did. So I did a lot of sing-alongs, and I don't know about the other people.
Well, how would you describe the clientele of the bar? You said it sort of depended on the night.
Oh, was this fun? I'll tell you personally, I used to drive down there at night and just think in my head, I wonder what the world's going to happen tonight. Because every single night was different depending on the crowd, okay?
Yeah.
Now, one thing that really we had our regulars. We had real solid regulars. And I can't remember a lot of last names, but I'll tell you stories about some of them. And they lived in the neighborhood, the locals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when it was non-tourist season, we just got down to these locals, bless their hearts, kept the place going.
Mm-hmm.
Know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, during tourist season, well, actually throughout, it was very international when I was there.
Right.
Very. I don't know if it's still like that. But in those days, especially, I figured I was there till about 83 or 84. And in the 80s, everybody had money. You know, all the companies were just doing really, really well, right?
Yeah.
And you had all these startup electronic companies and all that stuff. You had a lot of young people with a lot of money. So it wasn't an age thing. But we had businessmen traveling that had big expense accounts, and they were staying at the St. Francis, and my tips were fabulous.
Right.
So really, night after night.
So in those days, what would be a fabulous tip?
For one person or my total for the evening?
Either. I mean, give me an idea of the sort of, when you say it was a fabulous tip, what were people laying down?
Well, if they gave me a $20 bill to play one song, I call that good.
That's pretty good. And in the 80s, that's a $50 bill these days.
Well, there you go. But we considered it 80s. It just seemed like everybody had money. People. So our crowd, what really sticks out in my mind, and most of my stories are about this, it was very international. We'd have people from 10 different countries sitting at the piano bar.
Wow.
And we would go around and say, where are you from? And I remember one night, there was a guy from a little town in Germany to my right. There was another guy from the same little town in Germany to my left. And they didn't recognize each other when they first came in and sat down. And when the first guy said where he was from, the guy at the other end of the bar yelled, "Hey, Johann, how are you?" Things like that happened all the time. We used to go around, and I'm saying this, the international flavor of it is what really stands out. And I don't think over all the years it was always like that. Know what I mean? Might have been more of a local hangout at times.
Sorry, go on.
We had our locals, too. We had at least a dozen people that came in every night that lived in the neighborhood. We had we used to sit and try to guess where people were from before they told us by their accent.
Right.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's how international it was. And so we'd have everybody say a little something. And we had two girls there that we just couldn't, nobody could figure out where they were from. We said, we're hearing French, we're hearing Scandinavian, we're hearing Spanish, and they finally had to tell us. Nobody guessed it, and it was two young ladies from Liechtenstein.
Oh, yeah, they had you beat there.
They had a mixture of everything, and they stumped us. But anyway, that's this international flavor of all this. Businessmen from from around the world came to San Francisco regularly, maybe 3-4 times a year.
And they were all staying in the hotels nearby. So
they were, and like I say, everybody had money. A lot of them were at the St. Francis.
Right.
Okay, now.
Do you think, actually, Elaine, can I ask you? Do you think do you ever hear any stories of people coming from the Handlery Hotel?
The Handlery.
Yeah.
Yeah. People stayed up. People were here on business staying in the Handlery. I remember that. I parked my car in the Handlery garage.
Ah, right.
And then I walked around the corner. I was going to tell you, when our international guys that came on a regular basis, 3-4 times a year, from Germany or England or Australia or Austria or France, okay, the bartender and I remembered them.
Wow.
We always remembered them. And the minute we saw them at the front door, the bartender mixed their favorite drink, and I started playing their favorite song.
Oh, my God.
This is how we collected our following of people.
Speaking of favorite songs, did you have one number that was sort of like you would close with a lot, or like that was a particular crowd favorite?
Okay, well, this is kind of a funny story, too. Are you aware that we had a whole bunch of piano bars in that one neighborhood at that time, all with single people at the piano?
No.
Okay, it was just a great time for piano bars. People love piano bars. We had, of course, Lefty O'Douls was there. And Lefty O'Douls and the Gold Dust are the only two that are still left.
Yeah.
There was a place called the Paddock across the street from Lefty's.
Called the Paddock.
That was on Geary Street.
Right.
There was a place called the Geary Cellar right next to the Geary Theater. There was a place down on O'Farrell and Powell, and I cannot think of the name of it. So there were about 5 piano bars. Each one had one person sitting at the piano, and the tourists would hop from one piano bar to the next. They'd go to all of them. They'd spend about an hour in each place, okay? So if they had been, I got people that came in at the end of the evening, and they said, the last 2 piano bars we went to and asked for I Left My Heart in San Francisco, the pianists refused to play it. Because they'd already played it 20, 30 times.
Right.
They said that was their cutoff. At 1 o'clock in the morning, they just weren't going to play it anymore. And so if they ended up at my place with that, they would say, we're leaving tomorrow. Would you please play it for us? So I Left My Heart in San Francisco was definitely the most requested song. No question about it.
Fantastic. Any famous singers that may have come in and
Well, yeah. Cloris Leachman was there. I can't...
Who?
Excuse me. She was in a musical appearing in San Francisco called Nonsense. And she got up and sang with me. The people she was with talked her into doing it, you know. I cannot remember what she sang, but she had a very pretty, sweet voice.
What was her name again?
Cloris Leachman.
I think your daughter mentioned in her email that it was the Yellow Rose of Texas that she sang. Is that
No, she didn't sing that. That was a different thing. I got $100 tip for that.
Wow.
You were asking me about tips. Yeah, occasionally I'd get $100 tip to do one song. I got a whole other story about that. But anyway, do you know Cloris Leachman? Gee, how do I describe her?
Yeah, she was born in 1926. She's won 8 Emmys.
There you go. Yeah, she's still around, and she's a fantastic actor.
She's on a sitcom on Fox regularly now as the grandmother character.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. She used to be on Mary Tyler Moore. She played Phyllis, her neighbor.
Right.
Her neighbor, Phyllis. Anyway, I can't remember the song she sang, but she had a lovely voice, real pretty, sweet. And a guy that used to come in all the time, Jack LaLanne, the fitness guy.
Yeah.
Do you know him?
Yeah, we saw that.
He had a TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he recently passed away. He used to go into San Francisco Bay and pull a whole bunch of rowboats with his teeth.
Oh, he's the fitness guy who born in 1914. I got you.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah, he was on the older side when he used to come in and sing, and he must have lived a long time.
Yeah, he lived till 2011. He died last year. Yeah, January.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Your daughter mentioned John Travolta came in. Is that right?
You know, I think he came in, and I can't remember whether or not he sang with me. That's what I just honestly can't remember. He also would have been there in town with some kind of show.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the other people that came in that were such a treat, when the Broadway shows were at the Geary Theater, and they were right around the corner and all that, and the kids in the chorus from Broadway, who were all very, very accomplished to have a part in a Broadway show chorus, right? They used to come in when their show was over, and they would get up and sing, and they were all fantastic. And I would say to the people sitting there, do you realize what kind of free entertainment you're getting? We did have opera singers come in from time to time. I can't remember their names. They sang with the San Francisco Opera.
Right. So all those sort of regulars, your daughter mentioned that the U.S. Navy would come in every so often.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. I was remembering things as she and I were chatting that I had forgotten about. The submarine, Enterprise, USS Enterprise, must be one of the most famous ones we have ever had.
Yep, definitely.
Okay. They came in, they did 9-month tours somewhere in the world, okay? And then, at the end of their 9-month tour, they came into, I think it was Alameda, over in the East Bay.
Right. Yeah, that's where the Navy base is, yeah.
All right. And the minute they got that ship docked, they came running over to the Gold Dust. They were regulars.
Yeah.
They'd go away for 9 months, and our place was their hangout when they were in San Francisco and their ship was in.
That's great.
And one of my photos is with me and some of the guys from the Enterprise, it turns out.
Right.
Oh, that's amazing.
And they just loved it. And they knew all the songs from the musical South Pacific. and they wanted to sing all of them, which we did.
And she also mentioned there was a night that the French Navy came in and
right. I was telling her about the Enterprise, and then I realized, oh my God, we had the French Navy. The French, perhaps the British, and the American navies all met in San Francisco for some kind of exercises.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. I can't give you a year on this.
Oh.
So, in comes these French Navy guys that didn't even look like they were shaving yet. They were so young. They looked about 14, They all had on the French Navy uniform with the white hats and the red pom-poms. Okay? And they all sat at the piano bar. So we had a whole piano bar full of French Navy guys, and none of them spoke English.
Right.
And so people started sending drinks over to them. I mean, this was pretty novel to have all those guys sitting there, you know. And I was trying to figure out what in the world kind of songs to play for them. And I have another story about two real interesting regulars. But anyway, it turns out one of them, his name was Oscar, was from France and lived about 2 blocks away. And so we got on the phone and we called Oscar to come quick because we had a whole piano bar full of guys that spoke French. And we needed an interpreter. And he came running over. And everybody just had a great time. So he talked to them about what kind of music would you like to hear, you know what I mean? And asked them all their names and all that and spent the whole night there. And he happened to be one of our really regular customers who happened to come from France.
That's amazing.
I know. I had totally forgotten about the French Navy. That was just so much fun.
So Elaine, in the email from your daughter, she seems to make quite a lot of references how her life was tied into your experiences at the bar. For instance, that the tips paid for her new dresses and taking a taxi ride, etc.
That's right. When I had really good tips, I would tell my kids, okay, I've got some extra money here, and we would do things we didn't normally do. And she didn't remember the taxi ride story, but she had always wanted to ride in a taxi cab. And so I got really good tips, and I said, we're going out for dinner. We're going to go to a real nice steak place, and we're going to, although I had a car, I said, and we're going to go by taxi.
So when was the last time you actually stepped into the gold dust? You say you finished around 85 playing as the pianist, but did you continue to drink there?
You know, what did I went off to work on cruise ships. I left the area.
All right.
It's weird. The funny part was, so years and years later, my daughter, who hangs around with a young yuppie crowd, right?
Uh-huh.
And you can kind of tell from my stories, we had older people. You know, I don't know how to describe that, but it wasn't a place that really attracted the young yuppie crowd.
Apart from sort of traveling sailors, etc., your regulars were in their elder.
Definitely.
Middle-aged
and older.
Right.
Yeah. And because they knew and liked the older songs.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can tell by the requests I got and all that. However, so it was a few years ago, and my daughter, so Lori says to me, well, guess what's the real popular hangout for the people I hang around with? She said, it's the Gold Dust.
No way.
I said, you're kidding, you know? And so, you know, she would have been in her 30s, and it's a real yuppie group, right? She said, oh, yep, the Gold Dust is their hangout. Isn't that interesting?
It's still a popular place. I mean, so Tassios was actually at our wedding. Whenever we're in the city, we'll drop by. And George, there's a gentleman who's on the bar, on the door, making sure they don't hit their limits. And there's always a comfortable amount of people inside the bar. And I don't know a time on a Friday, Saturday night that we've not had to wait a few moments to be able to get in. Not saying there's a big line, but it's always busy, it's always packed, and it's always got, exactly as you say, a very, very international crowd to it. There's always tourists as well as regulars, and from ages young to high.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
I would say back in our day, we didn't have that many young people, okay?
Right.
So maybe the Dixieland style of music would appeal more to them than one piano player.
Well, I think in the 80s, anybody in their late teens, early 20s, they were going to clubs. They weren't going to piano bars, that's for sure.
Yeah. They weren't going to piano bars, absolutely. And, you know, what I played for 5 hours every night and sang, and it's a lot of music. I played the older tunes, you know, like you would play in a cocktail lounge, you know what I mean? The familiar old things. As time goes by, Stardust and so on. But no, I'm looking back on it. I tried to stay on top of all the new songs coming out, and I sang like those too.
Do you think you could give us a few bars of I Left My Heart in San Francisco?
No, did my limit. Already already sang it 10 times this morning.
Oh, come on. Come on.
No,
You told us you play that for the dying desperate at the
I
last
played
chance.
it. I sure did. I never turned anybody down. It was the other song that people were starting to refuse to play
What's that?
because people asked for it so much was Feelings. Do you remember that?
Which song?
It was called Feelings. Feelings, nothing more than feel. Okay. I don't know what the year was, and I don't...
Elaine, can you sing it a bit more? I'm not too familiar with it.
Feelings, nothing more than feelings, trying to forget my feelings of love. No?
No, of course I know it. I just wanted to hear you sing.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what it was about that song. I can't pinpoint the year.
Right.
But everybody was just sick of that song. I mean, and that was another one. And somebody would ask a piano player to play Feelings, and the piano player would just be so averse to it. I got a great story that dawned on me between your two phone calls today. Here we go. Okay, this has a famous personality in it. Sally Rand. Sally Rand was famous for her nude fan dance at a World's Fair. Maybe at Treasure Island, and maybe in 1939.
Right.
Did you ever hear of Sally Rand?
Yeah, she was a star and dancer at the 1933 World Fair, and then ended up at Sally Rand's Nude Dude Ranch.
Well, she was a dancer, and she was famous for doing a fan dance in which they thought she didn't have any clothes on. It was arguable, or did she in fact have some kind of a mesh suit on?
Oh,
but
right.
She was famous for this dance at some World's Fair.
Gotcha. Yes. 1904 to 1979. She was a dancer and an actress.
How do you like that?
Ostrich feather fan dance and a balloon bubble dance.
That's right. Okay. She had a son named Al Rand, okay? And Al Rand, when I was playing the piano at the Gold Dust, he was at least in his 60s, maybe older. And he was a tap dancer. And he made himself, or had somebody make him, a big round circle out of plywood. Okay? That you could, and he would roll it down the street. He would come into each piano bar and put it on the floor and nod to the piano player, and we would play a song that went with the tap dance, like Tea for Two or something. Mm-hmm. Okay. And he would tap dance on his board right in the middle of the bar.
Wow.
And for drinks. And then a bunch of people would buy him drinks, and then he would take his board, roll it out the door, and go to the next piano bar. Is that marvelous?
Wow.
That's amazing.
What sort of drinks were very, very popular? Can you remember? What were people drinking in those times?
Oh, a lot of beer. Interesting question. Mixed drinks, too. Yeah. Screwdrivers.
Would you ever drink while you were playing? Did you have a favorite drink that, people would buy you?
Should I give away my big secret? I'll tell you, and you see if we think we should repeat this. Okay. First of all, when I started doing piano bar, I had a couple of people come up on two different occasions. I think down in L.A. even. Once in L.A., once in San Francisco. Sit right in front of me, look me in the eye, and say, you got to be careful you don't drink on this job. I drank myself out of this job. Okay? I got 2 warnings like that. So
right.
I decided I wasn't going to drink at all.
Right.
Okay? No alcohol. However, that cuts down on the bar business considerably. If somebody says we want to buy the piano player a drink, which goes on all night long, okay, the piano player can't turn around and say, no, thank you, I'm not drinking, because the place is going to lose a ton of business.
Right.
So, should I tell you this story?
Yeah.
Okay. the cocktail waitresses and the bartender were in on it, and the cocktail waitress would say, we varied it, but she would say, okay, she likes a vodka and tonic.
Right.
And they would charge the people for the vodka and tonic, and the bartender would have a glass of water with a lime in it. Really. And on another night, I might, the cocktail waitress would say she drinks Bloody Marys, and it would be a virgin Bloody Mary.
Right, right.
She would call it a screwdriver, and it was in fact just plain orange juice. And people didn't notice that I was sitting there for 5 hours sipping out of all these drinks, and I wasn't falling out of my chair.
Well, that's because they were rotating through, but I'm sure the regulars knew you were sipping virgin.
Well, I remember I would have, honest to gosh, a dozen drinks lined up that I hadn't even gotten to yet. Okay?
Probably because they probably had twice as many, so they probably wouldn't have noticed.
Exactly. And how could I possibly drink that much booze and remember how to play the piano and remember my song lyrics? So I did not drink at all on the job. But that was the thing. And then, to me, I was a single mother with 3 kids, for gosh sakes. I'm going, boy, I sure would rather have that money in my tip jar, right?
Right.
But there was you couldn't do that. I couldn't say I'd rather have the money in my tip jar.
No, but did you not get if they were charging for the vodka and tonics, were you not getting a tip from the waitress staff, or were they pocketing all the money?
No, they kept the money.
Oh, right, wow. Oh, so
and like I say, I don't know how many other piano players did that, but
right.
It's the first time I've ever told the story.
Don't worry. We'll only broadcast this to the entire internet. Your secret is safe with them and us.
That's the secret. Yeah. Funny.
So did you know, Elaine? I mean, the reason we're calling you is because the bar has been served with 3-month eviction notice, which is terrible news.
Yeah.
Did you know that it was the handlery that's actually trying to evict them?
It's who?
It's the Handlery Hotel owned the building, and it's John Handlery.
No.
It is, I know.
I had no idea. Did they always own that property?
I would think so. I mean, I don't know the details, but they definitely own it now, and they're the ones that are... and basically it's because there's a big commercial company, a retail company, that wants to take the space, and the small 1,000 feet that the bar takes up, they want that as well to, have a big store. So they'll be removing this history, just to have the larger store.
And it's quite a small space, actually.
It's around 1,000 feet, yeah. So, if you...
Wow. I didn't know it was the handlery. All I know about the handlery is I parked my car in their garage on a monthly basis.
And they'd be charging you $50 a day for it now, probably. So, if you had a message... If John Handlery was in front of you now, what would you tell him?
Oh, just let the gold dust be and work your project around it.
Right. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you very much, Elaine.
Okay, nice talking with you.
Okay, bye, love. Cheers.
Bye-bye.